Some lessons are best learned with a little dirt.
The morning my wife Tracy told me we should just be friends, I was buttering toast in our pristine kitchen, watching her apply lipstick she'd never worn for me. The words hit like a slap, but I kept my face neutral. 22 years of marriage, and she wanted to downgrade us to friendship status. Friends, I repeated, setting down the butter knife with deliberate care. That's an interesting choice of words, Tracy. She had the decency to look uncomfortable, smoothing her power suit. The navy one she saved for important client meetings. I just think we need some space, David. We've grown apart. Space, right, the kind of space that included coming home at midnight smelling like cologne I'd never worn, and the mysterious gym membership she'd suddenly acquired. I'd found the key fob in my own car yesterday, wedged between the seats like a breadcrumb trail she'd forgotten to clean up. Friends it is, I said, forcing a smile that felt like broken glass. I've always been good at friendship. The relief on her face was almost insulting. She grabbed her coffee, black, no sugar, part of her new health kick, and headed for the door. I'm showing the Morrison property today. Don't wait up. After her BMW disappeared down our tree-lined street, I sat in the silence of our suburban tomb and laughed. Actually laughed, because Tracy had just handed me the perfect tool and she was too stupid to realize it. If we were friends now, I'd treat her exactly like I treated all my friends. No more romantic dinners, no more thoughtful gifts, no more putting her needs first. Friends get practical presents. Friends split checks. Friends don't prioritize each other's feelings over their own convenience. I pulled out my phone and canceled the anniversary dinner reservation I'd made at Romano's, her favorite restaurant. Then I called Eddie, who owned Murphy's Bar downtown. Dave, what's the word, brother? I need a favor, Eddie. My wife and I are taking a break from the whole marriage thing. She wants to be friends now. Eddie's laugh was like gravel in a cement mixer. Ouch, that's rough, man. Actually, it's perfect. I'm going to be the best friend she's ever had. The first gift arrived that afternoon, a practical set of socket wrenches from Home Depot. I had them delivered to her real estate office with a card. For all those loose screws, your pal David. Her text came an hour later. What the heck is this? I replied, just being thoughtful. Isn't that what friends do? The second gift was a subscription to Popular Mechanics. The third was a gift card to Jiffy Lube, each one more aggressively practical than the last. But the real masterstroke came when I started talking about my dating life at the neighborhood barbecue that weekend. Tracy stood frozen by the potato salad while I regaled the Hendersons with fictional stories about my Tinder matches. Oh, you should meet Stephanie, I told Bob Henderson, loud enough for Tracy to hear. We went rock climbing last weekend. Amazing woman. Really knows how to handle a rope. Tracy's knuckles went white around her wine glass. That night, she cornered me in the kitchen. What are you doing, David? Living my best life, I said, loading the dishwasher. Isn't that what friends want for each other? Happiness? This isn't what I meant. Oh, but it is exactly what you meant. I closed the dishwasher door with a satisfying click. You wanted friendship? Well, congratulations, Tracy, you got it. The cracks in her composure were starting to show, but I wasn't done. Not even close, because I'd done some digging, and the cologne in my car wasn't the only clue she'd left behind. There were credit card charges at restaurants I'd never been to, mysterious client meetings that lasted until midnight, and a sudden interest in yoga classes that didn't appear on any gym schedule I could find. My wife was cheating, and she thought she could manage me like one of her real estate deals, smooth talk and misdirection until the papers were signed and I was out on the curb. But Tracy had made one crucial mistake. She'd underestimated exactly how good I could be at playing the friendship game, and the game was just getting started. 3 weeks into our friendship, I'd mastered the art of calculated thoughtfulness. Tracy was unraveling like a cheap sweater, and I was just getting warmed up. The breakthrough came when I volunteered to help with her open house at the Morrison property, a sprawling colonial that screamed, "Look how successful I am." Tracy couldn't refuse without seeming unreasonable. After all, friends help friends, right? I arrived early, armed with a box of practical supplies, paper towels, toilet paper, and industrial-strength air fresheners, the kind of gifts a good friend would bring. "What is all this?" Tracy hissed, as I unloaded the box in the marble foyer. "Emergency supplies," I said cheerfully. "You never know when someone might have an accident during a showing. I'm just being prepared." Her face cycled through several shades of red. "David, please, just try to be normal today." "I am being normal. This is how I treat all my friends." That's when I saw him. Rick Donovan, leaning against his silver BMW like he owned the place. Mid-40s, gym tan, the kind of guy who wore cologne to the grocery store. He was talking on his phone, gesturing with his free hand like he was conducting an orchestra. Rick worked at Premier Motors, selling overpriced cars to people with more money than sense. I'd seen his picture in Tracy's phone, a client contact she claimed, though I'd never heard her mention selling him a house. "Rick!" Tracy's voice pitched higher the way it did when she was nervous. "You made it!" He pocketed his phone and flashed a smile full of capped teeth. "Wouldn't miss it, beautiful. This place is exactly what I'm looking for." "Beautiful. Not exactly the way you address your real estate agent." I stepped forward, extending my hand. "You must be Rick. I'm David, Tracy's friend." The word friend hit Tracy like a physical blow, but Rick just pumped my hand with the enthusiasm of a used car salesman. "Great to meet you, Dave. Tracy's told me so much about you." "All good things, I hope," I said, studying his face. Though knowing Tracy, she probably mentioned my hobbies. I'm really into photography these days. Candid shots, mostly. You'd be amazed what people do when they think nobody's watching. Rick's smile faltered for just a second. Bingo. The open house was a disaster. Not because of the property, Tracy was good at her job, I'd give her that, but because I made sure to insert myself into every conversation. "Oh, you're interested in the master bedroom?" I'd ask potential buyers. "Tracy's become quite the expert on bedrooms lately. She's been doing a lot of research, very hands-on approach." By noon, Tracy was ready to homicide me. Rick had disappeared after the third group of buyers, mumbling something about a previous engagement. "What the heck is wrong with you?" Tracy cornered me in the kitchen while a young couple examined the granite countertops. "I'm just being supportive," I said. "Isn't that what friends do?" "This isn't friendship, David. This is sabotage." "Sabotage?" I put my hand over my heart in mock offense. "Tracy, I'm hurt. I'm just trying to help you sell this house." Though I have to say, Rick seemed very interested. "Is he looking for something specific? A love nest, maybe?" Her face went pale. "What are you talking about?" "Nothing at all," I said, smiling. "Just making conversation between friends." That evening, I put phase 2 of my plan into action. I'd been watching Rick's patterns for weeks, and I knew he hit the gym every Tuesday and Thursday at 6 p.m. Gold's Gym on Riverside Drive, the same gym where Tracy had suddenly started her fitness journey. I waited in the parking lot until Rick emerged, sweaty and smug, checking his phone as he walked to his BMW. He didn't notice me approach until I was right beside him. "Rick, what a coincidence." He jumped like I'd tasered him. "Dave, hey man, what are you doing here?" "Same as you, I imagine, staying in shape." I gestured to his car. "Nice ride, business must be good." "Can't complain." He fumbled with his keys, clearly wanting to escape. "You know, I've been thinking about getting a new car. Maybe something with a bigger back seat, more room for activities. Think you could help me out?" Rick's hand stilled on the door handle. "What kind of activities?" "Oh, you know, photography equipment. I told you I was into candid shots, right? I've got some great ones from last week. Very artistic, very revealing." I pulled out my phone and showed him a photo I'd taken through the gym's window. Rick and Tracy on adjacent treadmills, leaning close together, her hand on his arm. Innocent enough to anyone else, but Rick knew the context. "That's a nice shot, don't you think? Great composition. I'm thinking of entering it in a contest, maybe sending it to the local paper. They love human interest stories." Rick's face drained of color. "Look, Dave, I think there might be some misunderstanding." "Oh, I understand perfectly." I pocketed the phone. "The question is, what are you going to do about it?" "What do you want?" "From you? Nothing. From my friend Tracy? Well, that's between friends." I walked away, leaving Rick standing beside his BMW like a statue. But I wasn't done with him. Not by a long shot. The next morning, I put my plan into action. Rick's car was still in the gym parking lot. Apparently, he'd decided to work out his stress with an extra session. Perfect. I'd brought supplies, a bottle of corn oil, a funnel, and a small drill. It took me less than 5 minutes to drain his oil and refill the engine with corn oil. Then I used the drill to put a tiny hole in his radiator hose. Nothing dramatic, just enough to cause problems. The final touch was the trunk. I'd brought a case of cat food, the cheap, smelly kind, and dumped it all over his leather interior. Then I left a note. "For your little pet. A true friend." Rick's screams echoed across the parking lot when he discovered the mess. But the real show started when he tried to drive home. The car made it exactly 3 blocks before seizing up in a cloud of smoke, right in front of the police station. I watched from Murphy's bar across the street, sipping a beer and enjoying the show. Eddie slid into the booth beside me. That's some serious payback, brother. I don't know what you mean, I said innocently. I'm just a concerned friend, watching out for the neighborhood. Sure you are. Eddie clinked his bottle against mine. So, what's next? I smiled, thinking of Tracy's face when she got Rick's panicked phone call. Next, I think it's time to have a heart-to-heart with my wife. Friend to friend, of course. The game was escalating, and Tracy was about to learn that I played for keeps. Tracy's meltdown started at exactly 11:47 p.m. I know because I was watching the clock, waiting for Rick's panicked call to reach her. When her phone buzzed, I pretended to be asleep, listening through half-closed eyes as she whispered frantically into the receiver. What do you mean your car is totaled? How does an engine just explode? I bit back a smile. Corn oil was a beautiful thing. No, you can't come here. David's home. David's awake too, I thought. But I kept my breathing steady. She hung up and stared at the ceiling for 20 minutes before creeping downstairs. I gave her 5 minutes, then followed, finding her in the kitchen with a glass of wine and her laptop open. Trouble sleeping? I asked, making her jump. Just work stuff, she said, slamming the laptop shut. At midnight, Tracy, you work too hard. Maybe you should take a vacation. I hear Rick's got some free time now, car troubles and all. Her wine glass froze halfway to her lips. How do you know about Rick's car? Small town, big gossip. Eddie mentioned it at the bar. Apparently some kind of engine failure. Weird how these things happen. David, her voice was steady, but her hands shook. What did you do? Me? I've been home all evening. Ask the neighbors. They saw me watering the lawn at sunset. Though, I have to say, as your friend, I'm concerned about the company you're keeping. This Rick character seems to have a lot of bad luck lately. I opened the refrigerator and grabbed a beer, popping it open with deliberate casualness. Speaking of friends, I've been thinking about our arrangement. This friendship thing is working out great. Very liberating. What do you mean? Well, friends don't have to worry about each other's feelings, right? They can date other people, make their own financial decisions, change passwords on joint accounts. Tracy went rigid. You wouldn't. Wouldn't what? Exercise my rights as an independent adult? Tracy, we're friends now. Friends don't control each other. I pulled out my phone and showed her the banking app. I moved my direct deposits to a new account today. Don't worry. I left enough in the joint account to cover your personal expenses. Very generous, considering we're just friends. You bastard. Now, that's no way to talk to a friend. The next morning, I implemented phase 2. I'd spent years building our home network, and Tracy had never bothered learning the technical details. She just wanted everything to work seamlessly. Internet, streaming services, security systems, smart home controls. With a few keystrokes, I changed every password in the house. Wi-Fi, Netflix, Spotify, even the garage door opener. Then I sat back and waited. Tracy's first scream came at 8:15 a.m. when she couldn't get online. The second came at 8:30 when the garage door wouldn't open. By 9 a.m., she was standing in my home office doorway, vibrating with rage. Fix it! Now! Fix what? I didn't look up from my computer. The internet, the garage, everything. Oh, that. Yeah, I upgraded our security. Cyber threats are everywhere these days. As a friend, I thought you'd appreciate the extra protection. Give me the passwords, David. I don't think that's wise. Friends look out for each other's digital safety. I'd hate for you to accidentally compromise our network. She lunged for my computer, but I was ready. I caught her wrists and held them gently but firmly. Tracy, violence isn't the answer. Maybe we should talk about what's really bothering you. You're destroying my life. I'm protecting our friendship. There's a difference. I released her wrists and leaned back in my chair. Tell you what. I'll give you the Wi-Fi password if you answer one question honestly. What question? How long have you been sleeping with Rick? The color drained from her face. I'm not Tracy. I pulled out my phone and showed her a photo I'd taken the week before. Rick's car parked outside the Riverside Motel. Tracy's distinctive red coat visible through the window of room 237. Friends don't lie to friends. She sank into the chair across from my desk, suddenly looking older than her 45 years. 6 months. Thank you for your honesty. I wrote the Wi-Fi password on a sticky note and handed it to her. See? Friendship is all about communication. Why are you doing this to me? I'm not doing anything to you. I'm simply adjusting to our new relationship dynamic. You wanted friendship instead of marriage, so I'm giving you exactly what you asked for. This isn't what I meant, and you know it. Then perhaps you should have been more specific. I turned back to my computer. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have work to do. Some of us still have to earn a living. She left without another word, but I knew this was far from over. Tracy was a fighter. It's what made her successful in real estate. She'd regroup and come back swinging. I was counting on it. That afternoon, I paid a visit to Premier Motors. Rick was at his desk, looking like he'd been hit by a truck. His usually perfect hair was disheveled, and his expensive suit was wrinkled. "Dave!" He jumped up when he saw me, knocking over his coffee mug. "What are you doing here?" "Car shopping, remember? You said you'd help me find something with a bigger back seat." "Look, about yesterday." "Yesterday?" I tilted my head innocently. "What about yesterday?" "The gym, our conversation." "Oh, that, just friendly chat between neighbors. Though I heard about your car troubles. That's rough, man. Engine problems can be expensive." Rick's Adam's apple bobbed as he swallowed hard. "Yeah, it was unexpected. These things happen. Karma's funny that way." I picked up a brochure from his desk, a red Mustang convertible. "Nice car, very flashy, the kind of thing that attracts attention, sometimes the wrong kind of attention." "What do you want, Dave?" "I told you, I want to buy a car, unless you're too busy to help a customer." For the next hour, I made Rick show me every vehicle on the lot. I asked detailed questions, demanded test drives, and haggled over prices I had no intention of paying. By the time I left, he was a sweating, nervous wreck. But the real coup came that evening. I'd been monitoring Tracy's email, one of the advantages of setting up all her accounts years ago, and I'd discovered something interesting. Her affair with Rick wasn't just personal. They'd been planning to go into business together, using her real estate connections and his sales experience to flip properties. The only problem was the startup capital. They needed $200,000, and Tracy had been slowly moving money from our joint accounts to fund their venture. Money that was now locked away in accounts she couldn't access. I printed out every email, every bank transfer, every piece of evidence of their scheme. Then I put it all in a folder labeled Friendship Documentation and placed it on the kitchen counter where Tracy would find it. She walked in at 9 p.m., saw the folder, and went white. "Where did you get these?" "Friends share everything," I said, including email passwords they set up for each other years ago. "You've been spying on me." I prefer the term staying informed, and what I've learned is very interesting. A secret business partnership, unauthorized money transfers, meetings at cheap motels to discuss strategy. Very entrepreneurial. Tracy sank into a chair, the folder clutched in her hands. "David, I can explain. No need. I understand completely. You wanted to start fresh, and you needed startup capital. Unfortunately, friends don't usually invest in each other's business ventures without proper documentation. What are you going to do?" I smiled, and for the first time in months, it felt genuine. "I'm going to be the best friend you've ever had, Tracy. The kind of friend who looks out for your best interests, even when you can't see them yourself." "What does that mean?" "It means tomorrow we're going to have a little neighborhood gathering, a block party, if you will, and I'm going to introduce everyone to the real Tracy, the ambitious entrepreneur who's been working so hard on her new business venture." Her face crumpled. "Please don't." "Don't what? Share good news with friends?" "Tracy, I'm proud of you. Everyone should know how clever and resourceful you've been." I stood up and headed for the stairs, pausing at the doorway. "Oh, and Tracy? You might want to call Rick. I have a feeling he's going to need all the support he can get." The game was entering its final phase, and I held all the cards. The Hendersons' annual block party was a suburban institution, the kind of mandatory fun that kept property values high and neighbors civil. This year, I'd volunteered to help with the setup, much to Tracy's horror. "You don't have to do this," she pleaded as I loaded folding chairs into my truck. "We can work something out, privately." "But I want to help," I said, securing the tailgate. "Friends support each other's social obligations." The morning of the party, I arrived early at the Hendersons' backyard, armed with my secret tools, a portable speaker system and a USB drive full of entertainment. Bob Henderson was struggling with the microphone setup when I approached. "Need a hand, Bob? I've got some experience with audio equipment." "Dave, you're a lifesaver." This thing's been acting up all morning. Within minutes, I had the system purring like a kitten. I also made sure to sync it with my phone, just in case we needed some impromptu announcements later. Tracy arrived fashionably late, wearing a sundress that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. She'd applied her makeup like armor, but I could see the cracks in her composure. Rick was nowhere to be seen, probably still dealing with insurance claims and rental car paperwork. David. She approached me cautiously like I might explode. Please, can we talk? Of course, that's what friends do. I steered her toward the drinks table where half the neighborhood was already gathering. In fact, I think everyone would love to hear about your exciting new business venture. Don't what? Share your success? Tracy, you're being too modest. Mrs. Henderson materialized beside us, clutching a wine spritzer and radiating curiosity. Business venture? How exciting! Tell us everything, Tracy. Tracy's smile looked like it had been carved with a dull knife. It's really not that interesting. Oh, but it is, I interrupted. Tracy's been working on a property development partnership. Very innovative approach. She's been conducting meetings at the most unusual locations. Motels, parking lots, even the gym. Really thinking outside the box. Mrs. Henderson's eyebrows climbed toward her hairline. Motels? Market research, Tracy said quickly. We were evaluating potential properties for renovation. We? Bob Henderson had joined our little circle, beer in hand. Who's your partner? Before Tracy could answer, I spotted Rick's silver BMW, or rather his rental car, pulling up to the curb. He'd finally worked up the courage to show his face. Perfect timing, I said. Here comes Tracy's business partner now. Rick approached our group with the enthusiasm of a man walking to his execution. His usual swagger was gone, replaced by the nervous energy of someone who knew the walls were closing in. Rick! I called out, waving him over. We were just talking about your business partnership with Tracy. Everyone's very interested in the details. Business partnership? Mrs. Henderson's voice could have cut glass. I thought you said he was just a client, Tracy. He Tracy was floundering, her carefully constructed lies collapsing under the weight of scrutiny. Actually, I said, pulling out my phone, I have some photos from their business meetings, very professional stuff. Would you like to see? No! Tracy and Rick spoke in unison, which only made everyone more curious. I scrolled through my phone, showing the crowd carefully selected images. Rick and Tracy at the motel, sharing intimate conversations at the gym, holding hands in his car. Nothing explicit, but incriminating in context. These are beautiful, candid shots, I said. Really captures the partnership dynamic. Oh my, Mrs. Henderson whispered, studying the photos. This looks very collaborative. More neighbors had gathered, drawn by the scent of drama like sharks to blood. I could see Tracy's reputation crumbling in real time as whispers spread through the crowd. I think there's been a misunderstanding, Rick said, his voice cracking. Tracy and I were just what? I asked. Just business partners, just friends, just lovers planning to steal my money and start a new life together? The crowd gasped. Tracy's face went from pale to green. David, please, what? Please keep your secrets. Please pretend I don't know about the money transfers, the forged documents, the elaborate scheme to fund your little love nest. I pulled out the folder of evidence and began reading from the printed emails. Rick, darling, I've moved another $50,000 from the joint account. David's so clueless about finances, he'll never notice. Stop, Tracy whispered. Can't wait to be free of this suburban prison. Once we have enough capital, we can disappear and start fresh. David will be so devastated, he'll probably just roll over and give me everything in the divorce. The crowd was dead silent now, hanging on every word. Rick looked like he wanted to sink into the ground. Should I continue? I asked. There are some really juicy details about your romantic getaways and future plans. You're destroying my life, Tracy hissed. I'm sharing information with friends. Isn't that what friendship is about? Transparency, honesty, trust? Bob Henderson cleared his throat. Maybe we should all just calm down. Calm down? I laughed, and it sounded slightly unhinged even to my own ears. Bob, my wife has been systematically stealing my money to fund an affair with a used car salesman. She wanted to be friends instead of spouses, so I'm treating her exactly like I'd treat any friend who betrayed me. I walked over to the microphone system and tapped it twice. The feedback squeal got everyone's attention. Ladies and gentlemen, if I could have your attention for just a moment. I'd like to propose a toast to my dear friend Tracy and her business partner Rick. David, don't do this, Tracy pleaded. But I was beyond caring about her feelings. Tracy has taught me so much about friendship over the past few months. She's shown me that friends can lie to each other, steal from each other, and betray each other's trust. She's demonstrated that friendship is really just marriage without the legal obligations or emotional honesty. The crowd was transfixed, like witnesses to a car crash. So here's to Tracy and Rick. May your business partnership be as successful as your personal relationship has been honest. I raised my beer bottle in a mock salute. Cheers to friendship! The silence that followed was deafening. Then Mrs. Henderson started clapping slowly and others joined in. Not celebrating, but acknowledging the performance they'd just witnessed. Tracy fled toward the house, Rick stumbling after her. But I wasn't done yet. Oh, and one more thing, I called into the microphone. If anyone's interested in buying a house, I'd avoid Premier Properties. Their agents have some very creative approaches to client relationships. The crowd began to disperse, buzzing with gossip that would fuel neighborhood conversations for months. I just destroyed Tracy's professional reputation, along with her personal one. Bob Henderson approached me as I packed up the microphone equipment. That was intense, Dave. Just being honest, Bob, friends deserve the truth. What happens now? I looked toward the house where Tracy and Rick had disappeared, probably planning damage control or escape routes. Now we see what they're really made of. But I already knew the answer. They were made of lies, greed, and cowardice, and I was about to prove it. The aftermath of the block party was swift and brutal. By Monday morning, Tracy's real estate office had received 3 calls from potential clients canceling their appointments. By Tuesday, her boss Janet was asking uncomfortable questions about her client relationship protocols. I watched it all unfold from my home office, monitoring the fallout like a general surveying a battlefield. Tracy had barricaded herself in the master bedroom, emerging only for coffee and hushed phone conversations with Rick. But I wasn't satisfied yet. Public humiliation was just the appetizer. The main course required something more elaborate. Wednesday evening, I made my move. Tracy was in the shower when her phone buzzed with a text message. I glanced at the screen and smiled. Rick was panicking again. Meet me at the lake house tomorrow at 8 p.m. We need to talk about our options. Come alone. RRR. Perfect. I'd been waiting for them to arrange a private meeting. The lake house belonged to Rick's uncle, a half-renovated property on the outskirts of town that Rick had been using for his business meetings. I discovered it weeks ago during my surveillance, and I'd been planning this moment ever since. I spent Thursday preparing. First, I called Eddie and Frank, my boxing coach, explaining what I needed. They were both divorced themselves and had no love for cheating spouses. You sure about this, Dave? Frank asked as we loaded equipment into my truck. This sounds like it could get messy. It's going to be messy, I agreed. But it's going to be legal. Everything I'm planning is technically within my rights. If you say so, brother, but if the cops show up, I don't know nothing about nothing. By 7:30 p.m., we were in position. The lake house sat on an isolated dirt road, surrounded by pine trees and bad decisions. Eddie and Frank were hidden in the tree line with cameras and recording equipment while I waited inside the house. Rick arrived first, his rental car crunching over gravel as he parked. He looked terrible, unshaven, wrinkled clothes, the desperate appearance of a man whose world was collapsing. Tracy's BMW appeared 10 minutes later. She emerged wearing dark sunglasses and a baseball cap, like a celebrity avoiding paparazzi. They met on the front porch, speaking in urgent whispers before entering the house. I gave them 5 minutes to get comfortable, then made my entrance. Well, look what we have here, a business meeting. They spun around like guilty teenagers. Rick's face went white, while Tracy's jaw tightened with familiar stubbornness. David, what are you doing here? Same thing you are, I imagine. Having a friendly conversation about the future. I walked into the living room, noting the scattered papers on the coffee table, bank statements, property deeds, what looked like plane tickets. Planning a trip? How exciting. Where are we going? We? Rick found his voice, though it cracked like a teenager's. Dave, this doesn't involve you. Doesn't involve me? I laughed, picking up one of the bank statements. Rick, this is my money you're planning to travel with. That makes it very much my business. Tracy stepped forward, trying to regain control. David, we can work this out. Divide everything fairly. Fairly? I interrupted. You mean like how you fairly informed me about your affair? Or how you fairly asked permission before stealing $200,000. It's not stealing. It's marital property. Was marital property. Past tense. I pulled out my phone and showed them the screen. As of this morning, I filed for legal separation. Emergency motion to freeze all joint assets pending investigation of financial irregularities. Tracy's face crumpled. You can't do that. I just did. My lawyer says it's a slam dunk case. Unauthorized transfers, hidden accounts, evidence of adultery. The judge was very sympathetic. Rick was edging toward the door, but I blocked his path. Where are you going, Rick? We're just getting to the good part. I don't want any trouble, Dave. Too late for that. I grabbed his shirt and shoved him against the wall. Not hard enough to injure him, but hard enough to make my point. You want to know what trouble looks like? Trouble is having your car vandalized in front of the police station. Trouble is having your boss find out you've been using company time to screw married clients. How do you know about your boss? Simple. I called him. Told him I was considering buying a car, but I'd heard some concerning rumors about your professionalism. He was very interested in hearing the details. Rick's knees buckled. You're destroying my life. I'm protecting my interests. There's a difference. I released him and turned to Tracy, who was clutching the back of a chair like a lifeline. Now let's talk about our friendship, Tracy, because friends don't steal from each other, friends don't lie to each other, and friends definitely don't plan to run away to Mexico together using stolen money. Mexico? She looked genuinely confused. I held up the plane tickets Rick had been trying to hide. Cancun, 2 tickets departing Saturday morning. Very romantic, Rick. Too bad you'll be spending Saturday morning in a lawyer's office instead. What do you want? Tracy whispered. What do I want? I walked to the window, looking out at the dark lake. I want you to understand what you've done. I want you to feel what I felt when I realized my wife of 22 years thought I was too stupid to notice her affair. I turned back to face them, and something in my expression made them both step backward. I want you to know that every move you've made, every secret meeting, every lie you've told, I've been watching, I've been recording, I've been planning. I pulled out a small digital recorder and placed it on the coffee table. This device has been in Tracy's purse for 3 weeks. It's recorded every conversation you've had about me, about the money, about your plans to disappear. Very illuminating stuff. Tracy grabbed her purse and dumped it out, finding the small recording device among her belongings. That's illegal. Actually, it's not. Marital property, remember? I have every right to track my own belongings, and since the purse was purchased with joint funds... Rick was hyperventilating now. What are you going to do with the recordings? That depends on what you're going to do for me. I sat down in the chair across from them, suddenly calm. Here's what's going to happen. Rick, you're going to write a detailed confession about your affair with Tracy and your plan to steal my money. You're going to sign it, date it, and give me 3 copies. And if I don't? Then I release the recordings to your boss, your ex-wife, and the local newspaper. Your choice. Rick's hands shook as he reached for a pen. Tracy, you're going to sign a quitclaim deed transferring your interest in our house to me. You're also going to provide a complete accounting of every penny you've moved from our joint accounts. I won't do it. Then I'll see you in divorce court, where a judge will hear these recordings and decide how to split our assets. Spoiler alert, adultery and theft don't play well with family court judges. For the next hour, I watched them sign document after document, each signature another nail in the coffin of their scheme. When it was finished, I gathered the papers and headed for the door. Where are you going? Tracy called. Home to my house, which is now legally mine. What about us? I paused in the doorway, looking back at the 2 people who had tried to destroy my life. You wanted friendship, Tracy. Well, congratulations, you've got it. You and Rick can be friends together, broke and unemployed and facing fraud charges. Fraud charges? Did I forget to mention? Forging signatures on bank documents is a felony. The district attorney is very interested in your case. I walked out into the night air, leaving them to contemplate their future. Eddie and Frank emerged from the trees, grinning like wolves. Did you get everything? I asked. Every word, Eddie confirmed. That was beautiful, Dave. Absolutely beautiful. As we drove away, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Peace. The game was over and I had won completely. Tracy would face criminal charges for the forged documents. Rick would lose his job and probably his freedom. Their dreams of a new life together had died in that lake house. along with any illusion that they could outsmart me. I'd kept my promise to be Tracy's friend. The kind of friend who holds you accountable for your actions, no matter how much it hurts. The next morning, I woke up in my own bed, in my own house, surrounded by the silence of victory. Tracy's belongings were gone. She'd collected them during the night like a thief, which was fitting. My phone buzzed with a text from my lawyer. Fraud charges filed. Divorce papers served. House is yours. Well played. I smiled and deleted the message. Then I made coffee, read the newspaper, and planned my day like any other suburban morning. Except this morning, I was free.
더 빡세. 예, 채팅창은. 예, 일단은 오줌 한 사발이 좀 싸고 갑시다. 예, 혹시 모르니까. 이제 30분 내로 공개되는데 뭐 그게 뭐가 중요해. 여러분들 원래 궁금한 게 좋은 거야. 예, 내가 말해주면은 이거 장미꽃 사가는 의미가 없잖아 사실. 예, 우리 혜원이가 장미꽃 사줬는데 장미꽃 사가는 의미가 없잖아 그렇게 돼버리면. One don't give a whiplash. I don't give a whiplash. 뭐든지 의미가 있어야 돼. 뭐든지 의미가 있어야 그게 방송이지. 의미 없으면 그건 방송이 아니지. 좀, 예, 갔다 올게요. 예, 금방 갔다 올게요, 화장실. 청심환 먹자고? 그 정도는 아니야. 혹시 몰라서 예, 비아그라도 챙겨왔어.